First, though, in this hour, drivers who go on speed awareness courses are less likely to speed again, according to a major new government study. But critics say that these courses are a soft option and there should be tougher fines and more points given out as well. So what do you think the right answer is to speeding? Are these courses effective? Do motorists really resent speed cameras? Or are they a force for good overall? 0345 6060 973 is the number. Text 84850 and tweet at LBC with your view on all of this. So it appears that motorists who go on speed awareness courses, instead of accepting 3 points and a fine, which is fairly typical, are significantly less likely to reoffend. In other words, to speed again. And this is according to a Department of Transport funded study. The courses appear to have a lasting impact, with the reoffending rates still up to 13% lower after 3 years. Last year, a record 1.4 million people took one of these courses, which cost around £100 and last for half a day. Are they a soft option? Personally, I've not been on one. I don't know. But I'd be interested to know whether you think they do work and whether we should be using this more rather than less. I mean, earlier this year, Chief Constable Anthony Bangham, the country's road policing chief, claimed that they're being overused, these courses, and that motorists who break the speed limit should lose points and face fines. So do these courses work? How should we be dealing with speeding? 0345 6060 973. Are they a soft option? How important do you think tackling speeding is? 0345 6060 973 is the number. And we're joined first by Nick Freeman, criminal defence lawyer specialising in driving offences. Hello, Nick.
Good evening, Clive.
Are you a fan of these courses?
Well, the research seems to suggest that they are reducing reoffending. The whole point of sentencing somebody is to rehabilitate, to educate, and to punish. And this recent research shows that certainly it's having an impact on the reoffending. It's up to 23% less reoffending, which is obviously a good thing. And from the punishment perspective, people are having to fork out about £100, and they're having to give half a day of their own free time. So that there is combined aspects here which seem to work. I think it's important to put it into some sort of context. You're only allowed to do one of these type of courses every 3 years, and they're only open to people who commit what I call marginal speed offences. So they're speeding offences of up to 10% plus 9 miles per hour. So that the very high speeds, you won't be offered a course. It's the maximum is 10% plus 9. So you're talking about people who just, I say marginally, they exceed the speed limit by 10% plus 9. That's the maximum parameter, which, bearing in mind the massive number of cameras on the roads, it's not surprising, in my view, that 1.4 million people have attended a course in the last 12 months. It's a massive amount.
It's a huge amount.
Really, that the public are obviously not complying with the speed limits. They're very, very difficult to comply with.
Well, yes, that's a great point. And the fact that that's just the speed awareness courses, there's lots more people who are fined and get points as well. Then we're not obeying the law, are we?
We're not obeying the law. I think we resent being controlled by cameras. And really, these courses, they have a sort of salutary effect. They obviously educate. They have a salutary effect in the same way that not many years ago, you would have that effect if a police officer pulled you over and say, look, you're going a bit too quickly, mate. Slow down, otherwise I'm going to have to boot you. And you drive away, you'd be chastised, and you would drive carefully as a consequence of that for a period of time, because it would have an effect. We now live in an era where there is robotical policing, where unfortunately you don't see police on the roads. So you don't have that detriment, that deterrent effect. You have here, if you like, an opportunity which does have a deterrent effect by means of education. That has to be a good thing. And I also think it highlights the need for education, possibly in our prison system. I don't want to go off the point, but this is a bespoke course designed specifically for speeding. You imagine if you had bespoke courses in prison for a particular type of offending, that surely would concentrate the mind and reduce offending. And arguably, that's something that the resources should concentrate upon, because these sort of offenders raise massive amounts of revenue, about £140 million a year just for these courses, and about a third goes to the police. But they don't deal with bad driving, and really it's bad driving as opposed to these sort of speeds which cause the accident. So, yes, they're reducing people who are largely responsible from reoffending by 23%, but are they really the people we should be targeting, or should we be actually targeting our resources on other aspects of society?
Oh, it's a really good point you make as well about traffic police. I certainly remember being pulled up a couple of times over the years by a police car, and they do just say, look, you were slightly over the limit there, just don't do it again. And it was so frightening, frankly, that you think you're grateful, you understand, and it works in a way that when a camera flashes, you just kind of feel resentment.
You do. It's Big Brother watching you. When the police officer speaks to you, he's being a human being. He's treating you as a human being, not just a number. And yes, you feel you probably are shaking because you're frightened. You're frightened of the consequences. You know you've done something wrong, and he's been decent with you and told you, and that will have a lasting impact upon you. All that's gone now. So we live in a sort of a dehumanized age of policing, which I don't think benefits the police, and I don't think benefits the motorists. But that's the way it is, and.
Yeah, and the lack of leeway, you mentioned the 10%. If you're doing, say, 33 in a 30-mile zone, you've got no leeway if it's not a human. Is it reasonable to be done for that? You
wouldn't be prosecuted for that. The what used to be the ACPO guidelines is 10% plus 1, so you would be prosecuted at 10% plus 2 and above. And what Anthony Bangham was saying recently was that he thought there should be no tolerance whatsoever. He thought if you were driving at 31 or 32 miles an hour in a 30 limit, you should be prosecuted, which was really a farcical suggestion, particularly by the head of policing on our roads, because apart from anything else, our speedometers aren't calibrated and they're not accurate. And he then tried to justify it by suggesting he sought to clarify the situation, but at the moment refuses to say whether there is a tolerance zone in his particular patch. Although he's been asked a specific question, he won't clarify the point. But certainly across the country, and I'm not sure about his particular patch because he won't clarify it, there is a tolerance zone of 10% plus 1, which you will not be prosecuted. And that sort of affords the driver a degree of reasonableness. But to be quite honest now, most of the motorways are limited to 50 miles an hour, and I think most motorists will be delighted if they could get up to 50 miles an hour. My experience in driving up and down is it's an unachievable speed on most of our roads now.
An interesting idea you mentioned there as well, that if we can have speed awareness courses and you come away thinking, I mustn't speed, could you have similarly burglary courses?
Exactly.
Where, absolutely. You get sent on something and you're persuaded about the error of your ways and it works. That would be great, wouldn't it?
Well, it would be fantastic, and the stabbings that are going on in London at the moment, there's been a lot of talk by people who actually know and understand what's happening, and they're saying, look, what you're doing with these people is you're putting them in prison, because obviously people say, well, just throw them in prison, teach them a lesson, and you're introducing them to people who will actually teach them the error of their ways, as opposed to people who will cure them from their error of their ways. And if they had this sort of bespoke education to tackle this specific problem, I'm sure it would reduce the figures in the same way that it has done for speeding. But sadly, we only seem to concentrate on a punitive prison system with very little rehabilitation, which is sad, because it is supposed to combine both aspects.
Yes. Nick, thank you very much indeed. Nick Freeman joining us there, criminal defence lawyer. I can imagine the headlines if somebody caught stabbing somebody was sent on a stabbing awareness course, however good it might be. 0345 6060 973.